All right. Well, we are in the merry month of June. So January, February, March, April, May, June. This is the 6 months of Trump's first year of his second term. And already there seems to be a powder keg that's about to explode. And this has to deal with the protests that took place in regards to immigration, people being deported, as well as other things. This is a powder keg that's ready to blow up. And while there are some people out there saying American Civil War II, before we get hyped up for that, okay, just remember, everyone calm down about Civil War, but there is going to be a lot of civil strife and there's going to be a lot of unrest. And what I mean by this is that not only are people going to be upset about how the immigration crisis has been handled, and I want to be clear on this, the reason why there's an immigration crisis in the first place is because of previous and current Democrat Republican politicians, previous Democrat and Republican presidential administrations that have for years put sanctions, coups, economic blockade, encouraging the war on drugs in Central and South America. And when you cause so much political and social instability, a rational person, be they by themselves or a family guy or gal, they're going to look around the situation and be like, it's not safe to be here. It's not really good to be here. I would say right now, you have to look for greener pastures, okay? And that's why there's a crisis at the border. It's because of politicians for decades upon decades implementing horrific policies causing so much instability. But it's not only the immigration crisis we're going to have to worry about, because if this is only the beginning, remember, there's that big, beautiful bill. Remember, we have our own unchecked corruption in Wall Street, and with the instability of the banks and with all of these wars, it's only a matter of time before it all comes crashing down. And look, Elon Musk and Donald Trump had their little tiff, and Elon's saying, oh, Congress is bankrupting us, and that it's going to get to the point where we won't be able to pay off even the interests. So if that's the case, a lot of people who rely on Social Security or Social Security disability insurance or Medicare and Medicaid are going to be cut off. Are we going to get to the point of seeing people starving and dying in the streets? My grandpa, my uncle, my grandma, and I'm pretty sure your elder relatives, when they were still with you or still are now, can tell you about the times of the Great Depression and what they saw. People starving and dying in the streets. People being homeless. Shanty towns all over the place. If you don't think it can't happen again, it will. And right now, this is happening under Trump's watch. So let's get started with it because there's a lot to unpack here. So as it stands, yesterday, first troops arrive in L.A. after Trump sends National Guard to curb immigration protests. So let me just go ahead and just be clear on this one. National Guard troops arrive in Los Angeles following protests over raids on undocumented migrants. Here's why Trump's decision to mobilize them is unusual. The White House says the National Guard will be deployed for 60 days, but this is ultimately decided by the U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. The L.A. County Sheriff's Department says one person has been arrested and several detained following last night's unrest in L.A. California Governor Gavin Newsom says Trump's move is purposely inflammatory. U.S. politicians have classed whether the United States president is sowing chaos or de-escalating tensions. We've taken a look at what's been going on this morning. So this is from the BBC. So White House views aggressive immigration enforcement as a winning issue. So on the campaign trail, as we all know, Donald Trump promised that he was not going to tolerate left-wing lawlessness on American streets and would use the full force of his presidential powers in response. I wouldn't call it left-wing lawlessness. I would call it neoliberal feel-good policies that ended up causing more harm than good. The protests against Immigration Customs Enforcement, ICE enforcement officials in California on Saturday night gave him an opening to follow through on that promise. You know what I'm thinking? If he's willing to do this in L.A., I mean, there's other places in which have challenged Donald Trump, most notably Chicago's big brain mayor, Brandon Johnson. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with that. Chicago as a whole is a different animal. And if there's going to be a crackdown, because we know what happened in February where you had Dr. Phil in Chicago. How do you know me? How do you know me? If you're going to have Dr. Phil in the streets, I promise you, folks, or either that, if it's going to be happening here in the summer, it won't be cool and calm. Because in February, people are cold. You try and bring this stuff here in Chicago, there's going to be emotions at an all-time high. Plus, with my memory, I'm not senile or crazy yet. Well, I'm probably going crazy. I will say this. I do remember the high point of the protests during the first term of Trump's presidency from 2016 to 2020. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of protests. There's going to be a lot of people marching. There's going to be a lot of craziness going on. And continuing on, never mind that Los Angeles Police Department said the protests were largely peaceful, or that ones that were more disruptive involved just a few hundred individuals at most. Over Gavin Newsom's objection, Trump federalized 2,000 California National Guard soldiers, and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth warned that United States Marines were on high alert to also deploy, which would mark a rare use of active U.S. military personnel on American soil. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. I want to pause here and give out a hypothetical opinion. Okay. Just my opinion. And you know what? I want to be so wrong about this. I do. See, it's not that I always will be like, yeah, I was right. It's more of, oh God, I was right. Oh God, oh no, I'm sorry. It's like Ian Malcolm when the T-Rex got out of the cage. God, I hate it when I'm right. And this is one of those moments. But when you have active military personnel then going after U.S. citizens, I mean, now who are we fighting? We're fighting everyone overseas. We got enemies everywhere. Now enemies within. I'm not going to tell any of you all what to do, but maybe when you have time or a day off or you finish your work in the evening, I would like for you guys to check out this YouTube channel called Fall of Civilization Podcast. You know, a fall of different ancient empires. Now, each empire is different, but the story is normally the same. And it sounds shockingly familiar with what we're going through, because when a nation starts going after its own people, because I'm not talking about migrants, but then when you have active U.S. military personnel on the soil, what happens then? What happens then? It's the fall of the Roman Empire with memes. What has happened? What has happened? And I want to be wrong. I would love to be wrong. I have to be wrong. It's one of those moments where you could type in the computer and say, ha, Kit, remember when you made that silly statement, you silly goose? Oh, I would love that. Now, of course, hey, we got the nutless wonder, Bernie Sanders. In the U.S., opinions clashes, Trump sowing chaos or de-escalating tensions. Why not a little bit of side A and a little bit of side B? On U.S. Breakfast shows this morning, politicians have been reacting to clashes in L.A. between protesters and immigration officials. Democrat Senator Bernie Sanders tells CNN that Trump is moving this country rapidly into authoritarianism. Too late, Bernie. All right. A bold statement there, Cotton. He made a bold statement there, Cotton. Let's see how it works out. After involving the National Guard without consent of California Governor Gavin Newsom, Sanders says the decision shows Trump thinks he has a right to do anything he wants. Democrat Senator Cory Booker agrees, telling NBC that Trump's decision breaks generations of tradition and is only going to incite the situation. We're going to have a hot summer, baby. He also warns that Trump is sowing chaos and confusion by arresting people who are trying to abide by the law at immigration hearings. But Republican Senator James Lankford suggests to NBC that Trump is only seeking to de-escalate the tensions. He says that it's clear that the LA police forces are being overwhelmed. We want to make sure those protests actually don't spiral out of control, he explains. So why has President Trump sent in the National Guard? Well, according to this, U.S. President Donald Trump has said earlier that the protests that stop immigration laws being enforced constitute a form of rebellion. Anyone against the Death Star will have full wrath of the Imperial Stormtroopers against the U.S. government. Under Title 10 of U.S. Code, the collection of the general and permanent federal laws, presidents can federalize the National Guard, meaning to order the state-based troops to active duty. When there is a rebellion or danger of rebellion against government authority, Trump has used this power to send 2,000 National Guards to Los Angeles. In a statement from the White House, Trump said the National Guard members would temporarily protect ICE and other U.S. government personnel who are performing federal actions. The statement also says that they will deploy for 60 days, with the final decision resting with the U.S. Secretary of Defense. And of course, in the pictures, the National Guard are setting up at the LA Federal Building. If it's happening in LA, well, who knows where it can happen? Boston, New York City, Miami, Houston, Dallas, Chicago. Place your bets, folks. Who knows? But it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all. So, what more can we take away from this? Just real quick here, too. Trump's decision to federalize the National Guard, which is normally under state control, is unusual. The military force website says that it was brought under federal control using Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the same law Trump used during the civil rights era. Okay. President Eisenhower, Kennedy, and Johnson used the National Guard to help enforce civil rights to keep public order. The Guard was also federalized during the 1967 Detroit riots after the killing of Martin Luther King Jr. in 1968 and during the New York postal strike of 1970. According to CNN, the last time a president federalized National Guard was during the 1992 LA riots after 4 white police officers were acquitted over the videotape beating of a black motorist. So, we all know that. But here's a couple of things that are happening. We got a couple of videos here showing and indicating some of the protests. I understand that some of this imagery might be difficult to watch. I know that we are in some difficult, challenging times ahead. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We just have some troubled days ahead. But it's interesting, because the United States was founded by rebellion against the British monarchy. And now all of a sudden there seems to be a talk of rebellion by the people towards the government. When you have an institution that isn't widely trusted, when you have politicians for a long time who have been doing insider trading, when you have politicians who for a long time seem to be dismissive of the people are going to get upset. Now, how many times has Hard Lens Media or any other independent media network, be it on the left or right, showed polls in regards to how people view Congress? Cockroaches and STDs are more popular than the entire elected body of Congress. Corporate media, U.S. politicians, Democrat and Republicans, you really haven't done yourself any favors these past decades. Especially when you get all that gold-plated health care and other wonderful social benefits and a nice cushy lobbying job waiting for you, all the while the people starve. I mean, maybe stop supporting endless wars. Maybe stop supporting Wall Street and big banks. I mean, look, I get it. I get it. But there's always a breaking point. Always has been. Always will be. So let's go ahead and first pull this up here. There's been a lot of imagery. So let's go and talk a little bit more about this because there's something from Face the Nation. Because there is this video that came out from everybody's favorite, Christian Nome. Now, look, I could have my opinions about different people. I can, and I will, right? But here's her statement about what happened in 2020. As we all know, that was the height of the Black Lives Matter movement, especially during the George Floyd protests. So let's go ahead and pull this up here. I'm not going to say things are going to get bad, but 2025, year's a snake. Keep your heads on a swivel here, folks. I'm trying to be nice here.
Well, California's governor doesn't want the federalized system here. He says he's got it under control. There's no shortage of law enforcement. Gavin Newsom said he's called in California Highway Patrol. He says the Trump administration is seeking a spectacle here. He's saying to protesters, don't get violent, don't engage.
Well, if he was doing his job, then people wouldn't have gotten hurt the last couple of days. We wouldn't have officers with a shattered wrist from bricks being thrown through their vehicles being burned, flags being burned in the street, and Molotov cocktails being thrown. Governor Newsom has proven that he makes bad decisions. The president knows that he makes bad decisions, and that's why the president chose the safety of this community over waiting for Governor Newsom to get some sanity. And that's one of the reasons why these National Guard soldiers are being federalized, so they can use their special skill set to keep peace. We're not going to let a repeat of 2020 happen. And if you remember, it all happened in Tim Walz's state in Minneapolis, which was a neighboring state, and a governor at the time. And Governor Tim Walz made very bad decisions and then tried to get the governors to send our National Guard in to bail him out when he let his city burn for days on end.
Well, he called in National Guard 2 days after the protest, but that was a point of contention, I know, in hindsight.
So looking at this entire ordeal, especially now that the protests are happening, and I, for one, am deeply concerned about the overall crisis and the situation that is impacting all of us. Now, looking at this, the LA cops finally tackle anti-ICE rioters as first Trump ordered National Guard troops to arrive. So here's a little bit more. I just want to pull this up here and share it with all of you. More footage. This is from the New York Post. So let's play it. Let's go.
Oh, they're coming out. They're coming out. Watch out!
So it doesn't look like things are going to be calming down anytime soon. I want to pull up another video here. This is from Face the Nation, as more of this is breaking right before us. It's important for us to remember why this all happened. All right, this is under failed neoliberal policies. All right, there's been a promise of sanctuary cities. There's been a promise of stability. There's been a promise of peace, a promise to do all of this. As somebody who saw the early stages of the sanctuary cities, you know, when Hardlands media asked a lot of these activists and organizers way back in, like, hey, is there really a plan? Is there a plan to take care of these people coming in here? Because this will be a point of contention. Okay. Now, I know for a fact if I was taking the arduous march somewhere from South America or Central America, I could look at this camera and say, no, I think I would die. I think I would die even before I made across the border of another country. I think I'd probably, you know, just fall over kaput and be belly up, and that's the end. It's an arduous march, but why are people making this march? It's because, again, the war on drugs never asked the CIA. It's association with El Chapo, baby, and the white booger sugar, that white sugar that makes everyone go crazy and hyped up and energized. Almost like some tech bros. You might see them do this, then do that. You know, and then, of course, when you also look at the other bigger pictures, such as sanctions, coups, regime change, wars, civil wars, you know, a rational person, like I said before earlier in this segment, are going to want to run away. They're going to want to get out of it. You know, you see something happening, you're going to want to get away. You know, that's just me speaking, but I think a vast majority of people would feel the same way. But now this is a powder keg that's ready to blow up. And we all know, hey, Trump, in my opinion, has been the most transparent president in U.S. history. We know where he stands on immigration. We know where he stands on these issues. It's just now it's being pushed up to an 11, and people are already at their breaking points. And not to mention, there's this big, beautiful bill and the big, beautiful price that we all have to pay with that. There's a lot of questions about what's going on. Plus, we got ridiculous wars happening. So there's a war in Ukraine, the genocide in Gaza. I mean, everything is just now fomenting together. It's like a chemical charge. It's about to go kaboom. And I don't think we could stop it.
We begin today in Southern California, a region that has now become the latest epicenter of the nation's contentious debate over immigration policy. A federal law enforcement official tells our Homeland Security correspondent Nicole Skanga that multiple federal officers were injured in confrontations with protesters in Los Angeles this weekend. CBS News immigration reporter Camilo Montoya Galvez has the latest.
Chaos erupted in the Los Angeles area over the weekend, following increased activity across the country by ICE, the agency charged with carrying out President Trump's sweeping immigration crackdown. Videos captured a standoff between activists and heavily armed federal agents, and people throwing projectiles at law enforcement vehicles. Late Saturday night, the president called up 2,000 National Guard troops to support ICE, saying the clashes constitute a form of rebellion against the authority of the U.S. government. California National Guard troops arrived this morning, gathering at a downtown federal building where immigrant detainees are processed. The move bypassed the authority of California's Governor Gavin Newsom, who denounced it as an inflammatory action. The large-scale immigration arrests in Southern California are part of a broader expansion of ICE operations, following pressure from the White House for the agency to increase its arrest rate to 3,000 a day. Internal data obtained by CBS News shows that over the past week, ICE averaged roughly 1,500 daily arrests, a 127% increase from President Trump's first 100 days in office. More than 54,000 detainees are now in ICE custody. ICE has been able to boost its arrest levels by taking more aggressive tactics like arresting migrants, attending their court hearings, or check-in appointments across the country. The federal agency is also receiving help and support from other agencies like the FBI, Border Patrol, and the Drug Enforcement Administration. Margaret?
That's Camilo Montoya Galvez in Paramount, California. And we are just receiving word from our LA bureau correspondent, Nydia Cavazos, that activists are calling for a, quote, mass mobilization there later today. So we will continue to monitor the developing story.
Yes, and it is starting to develop more and more because as it stands, I just want to just be very clear here, folks. I mean, is this a sign of a declining society, of a declining nation? Yeah. When a nation gets to this point, we can look through antiquity and even in modern history. When stuff like this begins to continue on throughout the years, something is fundamentally wrong with the very body politics of that said nation's government.
You know, let's hope that no one is hurt and no one is injured, and it doesn't escalate from here. Look at the flag. Yeah, Guy, I see
there it is.
You
Mexican flag can, you know.
All right, Fox News. Yes, it's the Mexican flag. Yes.
You know, this is criminal activity that I hope is people are held accountable for. And I'm talking about the riots right here.
Where are the cops?
Yeah, where are they? You know.
Now, I do want to say this. This is a perfect opportunity in which you can have your fun little PSYOP moments that do take place. PSYOP moments in which, wow, this is all acting so unusual. Why are people being so aggressive? What is going on here? What is happening here? What's happening on the ground? Who's getting hurt and why? It's almost as if it is designed that way to distract you, or either that make you think that it's okay to have, I don't know, federal forces upon the people. It would concern me greatly if we do have active U.S. military personnel be deployed when, at least on U.S. soil. You know, I never thought I'd be saying this, especially when covering starting Hardlands Media or doing stories like this in this nature. It causes great concern and should cause all of us to wonder, well, what happens next? When is the next time, or what will we have to be prepared for that comes down our way? I want to pull up this other article here. This is from RT. U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered the deployment of 2,000 National Guardsmen to Los Angeles County following several days of violent protests and attacks against immigration and customs enforcement officers, the White House announced on Saturday. The latest unrest erupted in the city of Paramount, where demonstrators confronted immigration and ICE enforcement personnel amid reports of ongoing deportation operations. Though no raid took place at the location in question, tensions escalated near a Home Depot store where tear gas has less lethal rounds were fired to disperse the crowd. Well, you know, tear gas can hurt. Controversial statement here. Rioters and looters, Trump wrote on his Truth Social. Only writing on Truth Social. Why not on X? Oh no. Are you and Elon okay? If Governor Gavin Newsom of California and Mayor Karen Bass of Los Angeles can't do their jobs, which everyone knows they can't, then federal government will step in and solve the problem the way it should be solved. Well, Trump, listen. Just because you got the hammer doesn't mean everything's a nail. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said the president had signed a presidential memorandum authorizing the National Guard deployment, citing attacks against ICE officers and lawlessness that has been allowed to fester. She reiterated the administration's zero-tolerance stance toward violence directed at law enforcement. Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, who is currently overseeing the operations on the ground, told Fox News, "We're going to bring the National Guard in tonight. We're going to continue doing our job. We're going to push back on these people. American people, this is about enforcing the law. And again, we're not going to apologize for doing it." Homan emphasized, "You've got your First Amendment rights, but if you cross that line of impediment or put your hands on officers or destroy property, you will be prosecuted." Los Angeles County Sheriff Robert Luna said his deputies initially responded to his street takeover, but were later called in by federal agents who said that they were under attack. Eventually, the crowd grew between 350 to 400 people, and some began throwing objects at the agents, Luna told reporters. He emphasized that this department was not involved in immigration enforcement, but supported fellow officers under duress. Mayor Peggy Lemons of Paramount criticized the federal government for failing to notify local authorities in advance. There's a lack of communication so that we could have a better handle and be better prepared to educate our residents. People are just frightened, and when you handle things the way that this appears to be handled, it's not a surprise that chaos would follow. Because what could go wrong?
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead. Fucking do it. Do it from point blank. Yeah, there. Leave the area. I will, but go ahead. Go ahead, dude. Raise that fucking gun to me again. Move. Let's move. You gotta chill the fuck out, Al. Chill the fuck out. Chill the fuck. Chill the fuck out. Chill the fuck out. Hey, let's go. Chill out. Back down, Adler, you little fucking bitch. You're a little punk. You're a fucking punk ass. Shut your fucking mouth, Adler. Shut your fucking mouth. Don't ever raise your fucking gun to me like that again.
There's going to be more from this story. More opinions, more perspectives, more point of views. I want to say that things are going to calm down. Maybe, right? But that's me being idealistic. And you know what? I learned a very harsh lesson. Sometimes when you expect people to do the right thing, the good thing, the correct thing, there's never a follow-through. And right now, what we're expecting our government officials to do is understand and hear the plight of the people. But that's not going to happen because we have a system that doesn't care. Maybe things will calm down. But if this isn't a concern of the things to come, what else is there? You have Americans starving in the streets. You have Americans wondering whether or not they could pay their health care bills or their electric bills or any kind of utilities. You have small businesses being shut down. We have money for these wars and money to bail out the banks and Wall Street. It's a powder keg. Right now, the focus is on immigration, but give it time. If things start crashing down, if things don't start recovering, it's going to get worse. And that means what happens? Does that mean we're going to have to deal with federal or National Guard forces all over major metropolitan cities? What we saw and went through during 2020 should forever be burnt into our minds. We cannot let this abuse happen. But we have no one really to defend ourselves or us. The fact that right now there's even a talk of getting active military personnel involved should raise alarms. But we seem to be on a path for a nation in decline. I had a chance over the weekend to actually visit some museums, just to clear my mind. And after visiting the Art Institute and even the Field Museum, looking at the great architecture, art, carvings, paintings of empires long gone, I began to wonder and think to myself, someday in the far future, if humanity still survives and, we're able to maybe get off this rock, I wonder what museum will hold up the art and the pictures and the artifacts of modern day nations? Will we be viewed as Byzantium or Rome? Will we be looked at of these empires of ancient antiquity? How will they talk about us? Will there be something different to be said? Or will it be just the same, but with memes?